All right, we're going to work through this Theater FRQ, which they date at 2020. Okay, so a theater contains rows of seats with the same number of seats in each row. You know what? Why don't you pause my video, read everything, and then resume. Okay, I'm assuming you've done that. You've read everything. The seat class, a theater is going to be full of seats. And the seat class, it has a Boolean, available or not available, true or false. And then it has a tier, and it's either tier 1 or tier 2. So when you create a seat, you create it as available or not and say what tier it's in. Tier 1 is better than tier 2. And then you can ask the seat if it's available, and you can get the tier from the seat, and you can change a seat to be true, available or not. Okay, so then a theater, this is where we're going to write some things. We got part A listed right here. A theater is it contains a 2D array called theater seats, and it's full of seat objects, in rows and columns. And when you create this theater object, you say how many seats per row, how many tier 1 rows, and how many tier 2 rows. And then that is our constructor. So part A is to write the constructor. So takes 3 int variables: number of seats per row, number of tier 1 rows, number of tier 2 rows, and then it creates all the objects. So let's go ahead and give this a shot. So part A, public theater int, you should use their variables. Seats per row, int tier 1 rows, int tier 2 rows. Don't change the header, like even if you think, oh, I'd rather do it a different way. You got to do it the way they laid it out. Okay, so step 1, remember up here, you can see there's private seat, 2D array of seats called theater seats. So we're going to say theater seats equals new seat. And then we have to say how big this is going to be. We can't just create it like this. Now the number of rows is it's tier 1 rows plus tier 2 rows. That's how many rows there are. And the number of columns is seats per row. Okay, so we created the array. Awesome. I gotta get to the next line. All right here. Okay, and now we're going to create all the seat objects. So let's say for int I equals 0, I less than, we'll say theater seats dot length. That's how many rows there are. We could do the tier 1 rows plus tier 2 rows, but we can also just say the length. That's how many rows there are. And I plus plus. Now check this out. If I is less than tier 1 rows, then we're creating tier 1 seats. Else, we're going to create tier 2 seats. The tier 1 seats, you would say theater seats. I think I'm going to change this. Sorry, this should be R rows, and it's just possibly easier. And then I forgot we're doing, we got to do columns too. For int c equals 0. Now for columns, it's just seats per row. Seats per row, C++. So So sorry for that little detour. Indenting all of that. I'm adding my close curly bracket. Okay, so now we got rows and we got columns. Now, if the current row is a tier 1 row, remember, if there were supposed to be 2 tier 1 rows, then the rows 0 and 1 will be tier 1 rows. That's why this works. So we're going to say TheaterSeats RC equals new seat. And we're going to say true because it's available, and we're going to say 1 because it's a tier 1 seat. So let's look up here, seats. The seat constructor has a Boolean is available, and it has a tier number. And the constructor, it says all the seats are available and have the appropriate tier designation. So this is if it's, it doesn't matter how many tier 1 rows there are, but if it's a tier 1 row, it's going to say it's a tier 1 row and it's making it available. And then if it's otherwise, it's a tier 2 seat. And all we have to do is change that to a 2. And that'll fill up the TheaterSeats variable with all the right seats. So there's the full answer. So it's important that we do the right-hand side of creating the variable. Remember in the class definition, they said private seat 2D array is called TheaterSeats. So then in the constructor, we say TheaterSeats equals new seat, and then we have to say how many rows. That's how many tier 1 rows plus tier 2 rows, and then how many seats per row. That's really how many columns. And we don't have any ifs based on the columns because a column, everything in a single column is always going to be, in a row, everything in one row is always going to be the same tier. So we don't have any triggering on the columns. All right, so let's take a look at part B. Part B says, there's a reassigned seat method. It attempts to move a person from a source seat to a destination seat. And the reassignment can be made if the destination seat is available and has the same or greater tier than the source seat. So you can move from tier 1 to tier 2, but you can't move from tier 2 to tier 1. And it's a great thing. It's a great problem because you're gonna use set availability, and you're gonna also use the is available and get the tier. All these things will end up getting used now. So we've got I just copied the header. I'm gonna blow it over to 2 lines so we can this over to the next line so we can see it. We've got a from row column to row column. And I want this stuff way over to the left. Okay, so there you go. My phone's next to me, and I'm going to pretend that didn't happen. So, bottom line, if the reassignment will be possible if the destination is available and if the destination tier is the same or greater than the source tier. So, and then again, we have is available and get tier. So, and then we're going to return a true if we were able to make the switch, and we're going to return a false if we weren't available. So let's check if the destination is available. So I'm going to check if it's not available. So if not, and we're called TheaterSeats 2 row 2 column is available. So this is saying if it's not available, the not in front is like saying equal false, but I just do, it's a Boolean statement. So then we're going to return false. So if it's not available, it's not available. And so we don't do a move and we say false. Okay, now we know it's potentially available, but now we have to make sure that the destination row and tier is greater than or equal to the source tier. So if TheaterSeats dot can't remember, let's look, it's get tier, get tier, TheaterSeats gotta say 2 row, 2 column again. If we get the tier of the destination and it's greater than or equal to, I'm gonna go to the next line just so it doesn't go off into infinity. TheaterSeats from row, from column, get tier. So this means we're allowed to do it. So we'll do, and then we're going to say else. So here's another return false. Return false. So first we're checking, hey, is the destination available? Like there's somebody, might be somebody there already. So if it's not available, we say false. Then we're checking, hey, are we allowed to move over there? And we're only allowed to move if it's available. We took care of that check. And if the tier at the destination is greater than or equal to the source. Okay, so if that's not true, we return false again. But if it is true, what we want to do is change the destination to be not available anymore and change the source to be available. So it doesn't matter what order. TheaterSeats 2 row, 2 column, and this is set availability, and you say false. This is the destination. We just said, hey, it's now the destination is now no longer available. But hey, watch this, from column, we are now, it is available. See, we just freed up the seat where it came from. So, and then at this point, you can either, you could write here, say return true, because you have to return true or false. And the true means, hey, we did manage a switch. It's fine to put it here, or you could put it at the end here, return true, which would be the only way it could get there. But I think it's probably better right here. Okay, I hope that helped.